Thank you to the Worship House folks for the opportunity to do this talk. It's very humbling in a lot of ways. I must say that I'm a little intimidated by this talk because this is the first time that I've done anything for a sacred music gathering or a sacred music conference. So I'm not out of my element, but I am definitely a little, a little anxious about this. But nonetheless, I'd like to just get into it quickly and get into it as thoroughly as I can in this period of time. I'd like to start by saying that the theme of great music, good response, or good music, great response, and then now what is kind of a simple thing when I think about my life and I think about what I've been able to do in ministry. And the response is simply this: continue to serve. And I have three people in my life that will frame this moment for us. One of them is my mother, Beatrice Maxile, who passed away about 2.5 years ago. The other person is Dr. Hattie Wade, who is still currently serving as Minister of Music at Galilee Baptist Church in Shreveport, Louisiana. And she's been serving for over 50 years. And Dr. Donzel Lee, who's a college administrator slash musician slash church musician. And all of these musicians and all of these people have ties to the church and music ministries. And so for me, if I could, I would like to subtitle this moment, "My Song, My Story, but It's All in Service." So I'd like to start by talking about my mother. Um, she was not conservatory trained. She was not actually able to have an opportunity to do music professionally because the opportunities for her as a black woman in the deep South in the 1960s did not allow her the opportunity to be a band director, which is what she wanted to be. She played oboe and saxophone in the college band, and I really didn't know anything about this history until one day I was practicing my fingering chart. Trying to get ready for band practice, and then she just took the saxophone and started to play a jazz standard. And I didn't know that she had this ability, and it kind of shocked me. But it kind of all made sense when I thought about how adamant she was about me being a part of music ministry in church and doing all that I could musically. She had a genuine love for music and took me to symphony concerts and made sure that I was at church and participated in the youth choir. Our church had a children's choir that was kind of active, and we rehearsed on Saturday mornings. She wanted to make sure that I got on the van that carried us to rehearsals every Saturday, had me up early and ready to go, even though sometimes I didn't want to go. And many of the investments of just getting me there was instrumental in my spiritual growth and my musical growth, um, and maybe even cultural growth in some ways. The songs that we sang had to be theologically sound because our pastor was very strict, if you will, on sound doctrine. So if he didn't preach unsound doctrine, then he didn't wanting us to sing unsound doctrine. So there were many times where there might be contemporary worship songs that we sang that might have had a couple of words that did not quite align with where he was theologically, and he would kind of shift a word here or there, or ask the choir directors to shift a word here or there, or make an adjustment so that what we sang lined up exactly with what the mission and what the theology of that particular house was. And so I value that because that experience taught me that pastors or leaders that are not musicians, or some, actually do care, or maybe most do care about what is actually sung and the text that is sung, not so much the beautiful melodies or perhaps, if you will, setting some kind of sonic tone that doesn't have any connection theologically to what's going on with regard to the mission of the house or the pastor's theology. But let's get back to my mother. My mother not only sent me the choir rehearsals, she was a church choir member. She was a true servant in that way, and she honored God with her best, and she honored God with her gifts of organization and leadership. She took copious notes in choir rehearsals. She had kept a meticulous notebook of well handwritten lyrics to all the songs that they sang. There were documented accounts of everything that happened at each choir rehearsal. It was an interesting thing to see from the standpoint of me, her child, because I didn't understand why all of this work went into choir rehearsal. She was not the choir director. She was not a pianist. She was not the organist. She didn't play any instruments. She just went to choir rehearsal. And I found it interesting that she took so much time to take care of what she had to do to be the best choir member that she could be. Um,
Mm,
But in addition to her notes, she took care of every score that was given to her by the choir director, be it an arrangement of a hymn, an anthem, or maybe even sheet music to contemporary gospel songs. So she took and she kept her own library of music. And she was fortunate in that way because she could read music. She was one of the few music readers that were in the choir at that time. And her copious note taking led to eventual leadership in the ministry as choir president, in which she served in the mid 1980s. As technology advanced, her note taking became even more advanced because she was able to carry one of those handheld cassette recorders, a Walkman. And so she took her Walkman, or that had recording capabilities to every choir rehearsal, and she recorded choir rehearsals. And so I recall as she was doing things, maybe in the kitchen, or maybe even in her bedroom, listening to her part in the bedroom or in the kitchen or in the den area, listening to her part and learning her part so that she could be ready for Sunday morning. And that had probably the most profound impact on me because not only did she record her part, she recorded context of her part in the middle of all of the other choir parts so that she knew exactly where she was supposed to be at any given time within the song. And this was amazing. It became amazing to me as I got older because most folks these days barely want to record rehearsals on their phones that have these capabilities. Um, and this is one of the reasons why that as a sometimes choir director or a choir director of the men's choir, I don't write any words down for the men. I don't give them handouts. If they want the words written down, they can write them down themselves, or they can record the rehearsals as they choose to. And so I bring this up because her dedication to ministry, her dedication to being the best that she can be for God, inspired her to take those copious notes, to be as organized, to use her gifts, if you will, of leadership and organization toward her approach to her offerings in song. And I think that is where I saw my mom's gifting. Yes, she did it in the area of music, but I believe her gifts of organization and leadership poured over into what she wanted to offer God in a musical context. And so I've taken some of those lessons and I value them greatly. She did not only listen to her tapes, she also kept gospel music in the car on gospel radio stations. And she often reminded me that when I wanted to hear pop songs or some rap or a little bit of something else, she said, "You better listen to this gospel because this gospel is what's keeping you out of trouble." I was like, "Oh, okay." So, yeah. So, I guess the gospel songs that she listened to kind of kept her with a cool head with teenage kids that might have gotten on her nerves. So, I thank God for that as well. Um, but she was also a music lover outside of sacred context. She did like Luther Vandross and Anita Baker, Marvin Gaye, Teddy Pendergrass, and Roberta Flack. And so we were a musical household where we had a lot of things going on, especially Al Green. So I had a nice, well-rounded musical experience because of my mother. But let me get back to this area of service. Because not only did she serve in the music ministry, and not only did her gifts of leadership and organization shape her approach to being a choir member, I would stress to say that she was doing ministry at a high level. She never held a choir director position. She never even sang a solo in our church choir. But I venture to say that she did music ministry at a high level because she gave her very best and did and brought all that she had to her position. as a choir member. So I will never ever let anyone say that I'm just a choir member or that I'm just a musician. No, you are a servant that is functioning in that particular way for the goals of elevated corporate worship. Um, I didn't get it as a kid, but I get it now. And I thank her for those lessons. I thank her for pouring so much into me indirectly by way of her example. And I just wanted to honor her by approaching this theme through the lens of service. And she gave her best service because she gave all that she had and she brought her specific gifts even to the area of music. These gifts actually poured outside of the music ministry, and she was one of the people that was in the kitchen committee that served treats to the kids for Vacation Bible School. She actually ran concessions at her high school, at which she worked for 40 years to make sure that children, high schoolers had a chance to go to Washington, D.C. to go for the close-up concert. So all this to say that this area of service um, is the now what, you know, good song, good reception by the congregation, and now what? The choir member continued to serve. I would now like to talk about my primary musical mentor. If my mother was my first musical mentor, I'd like to talk about my primary musical mentor, and that is Dr. Hattie Wade, the minister of music, the current minister of music at my home church in Shreveport, Louisiana, again, Galilee Baptist Church. She served for over 50 years. I'll start with an anecdote for her. She told me many times a story about her as a as a kid sitting on the steps of her house pretending that she was playing a piano because that's what she envisioned herself being. She could not afford piano lessons. She was a gifted athlete, but just couldn't afford piano lessons. And some lady in her neighborhood gave her free piano lessons just because she saw her outside pretending to play the piano. And it was almost like it was what she was supposed to be doing. And the lady that gave her free lessons for a number of years, and she was able to matriculate as a music major because of that after having those introductions as a music major in local universities in the state of Louisiana. And so her service at Galilee Baptist Church it is immeasurable in a lot of ways. She did and does everything. And when I mean everything, I'm talking about musically. I grew up singing hymns, anthems, gospels, and spirituals. The beautiful part about her approach and her approach to ministry and her approach to musical service is that it was approached through the spirit of excellence, not perfection, but excellence. Excellence means, yes, you might make a mistake, but we're going to learn from that mistake and we're going to give God our best. The quote that I will take from her for the rest of my life is this: give God your best and then some more. Give God your best and then some more. There was no distinction with regard to her preparation or her delivery of instruction between anthem and gospel. The same rigor that we approached Brahms was the same rigor that we approached Thomas Dorsey. The same rigor that we approached Handel was the same way that we would approach John P. Key or Kirk Franklin. It was all the same. It was all music, and it all glorified God, and it all desired, and it all required, if you will, our very best. And she pushed us to be our very best musically. She also served the community by way of doing youth rally musicals, where all of the youth and teenagers from all over Shreveport would gather in our church or a larger church to have youth rallies where we sang all types of songs. And even in those youth rallies, there was going to be a spiritual, there was going to be an anthem, there was going to be some gospel, and there was going to be a hymn in that musical. And so even there, that approach to a well-rounded ministry, dare I say, we were doing blended worship before I knew blended worship was a term. And so these gifts that she brought musically, she approached um, music ministry with her head as well as her heart. But I'll have to say that my mom approached with her heart as well as her head, because my mom's heart for service inspired her to bring her gifts, and then my primary, Dr. Hattie Wade's mind for music and the training that she received and all of the formal training and all of the accomplishments that she brought put her in a position of service to serve. And dare I say, if I can make a small distinction between her position and her placement in ministry. Her position was that of minister of music and choir director, but she was very aware of her physical placement in the sanctuary. She did not take for granted that she was placed in front of the congregation. She did not take it lightly that the choir stand in our church was elevated to a certain point to where people could see. And so she took those physical placements of her body within the sanctuary seriously. She took the physical placement of her body at the piano seriously. She took, and she continues to take her position, even though she's much older now. She takes her position um, seriously, but she also takes her placement in various areas of the city, in various buildings and various organizations very seriously. So even though she's brought a lot of perhaps a lot of attention and has acquired a couple of accolades because of the excellence and because of the way that she's handled music and handled her pursuit of what God wants her to do, she approaches it with a very deep humility. And that humility informs, for me, service. So again, great music, good response, or good music, great response. Now what? It all still goes back to service for me. My last mentor is Dr. Donzel Lee. I met him while I was a graduate student at LSU or Louisiana State University. He served at Donaldson Chapel Baptist Church as the minister of music, and he brought me on as a musician. This was an interesting thing for me because even though I played a little bit of bass guitar at my home church and I played piano for the gospel choir during my undergraduate years, I'd never had a formal position as a keyboardist um, in a church. And that was also intimidating because I spent most of my time performing jazz. And so I was a jazz musician. So I did lots of jazz and blues. And so lots of my chords had a little bit of that stank on it. It was real, but it managed to fit certain worship. And I didn't know that I was doing contemporary gospel stuff. And it was okay, but I did have enough of the nurturing and the background to be able to do hymns with as they were written and not put too many sevenths in as to disturb too much of the hymn or the congregation and basically reading the room and figuring those things out. But I did have a jazz background, and so I bought some jazz mentalities, dare I say, club mentalities, into my approach to music making at the church, and that was not always congruent with what was going on with Dr. Lee and how he approached ministry. This is not to say that I was arrogant or anything like that. And I didn't think that I was above anyone else, but I found myself impatient sometimes with regard to how quickly the rehearsals were going or how sometimes things had to be done over and over and over again. And so I found myself sometimes internally frustrated about the musical setting and the musical situation. But then I just kept thinking about service. And then here I am pursuing a doctorate degree, and I'm sitting under someone with a PhD who is approaching ministry with these singers and with these lay people with so much patience, with so much grace, and so much humility. And the lesson that I took from him and the message that he gave me that will continue to ring true for me is this: that your attitude will keep doors open for you that your talent will not. I'll say that one more time. Your attitude will keep doors open for you that your talent will not, or that your talent can't, which simply means this. So what if you can play? If nobody likes you, you're not going to be able to serve effectively. And it's not so much about being liked, but it's about being approachable. It's about being a part of something larger than yourself. And then I remember a quote by C.S. Lewis saying that humility is not thinking less of yourself. It's about thinking like what was it? Not thinking less of yourself, but thinking of yourself less. That's the quote. So not so much diminishing your stuff or diminishing what you do, or to think less of yourself, but to think of yourself less and put others in front of you. And so this takes me to a Sunday school lesson as I get ready to get out of here. My Sunday school teacher, Miss Buggs, said joy, Joy, is a simple formula. Jesus, others, then yourself. Then you'll have joy. I'll say that one more time, an acronym. Jesus, others, and yourself. And so when I think about these three musicians and how they walked in music ministry, the humility, the placement, their thoughtfulness about where they served, and just the raw spirit of service that asks and requires you to bring your very best and all that you have to God, because He's given so much to you, is are the things that shape me as a music minister. I don't really think of myself as that in a lot of ways because I'm not a choir director, so to speak, but I do sit on the B3 every Sunday that I can, and give God my very best, not because, um, I want to be seen, but because I want Him to see me doing it. I want him to see me praising him with all that I have. I want him to see me honoring him with the positions and placements. I want him to see me honoring him with every accolade, with every accomplishment. It's very humbling to hear your biography or your bio read to you, and it's even more comforting to know that I know that it's not me. It's all because of him, and all because of who he is, and all because of what he's given me. So, if anything, please serve God after you've sung, after you've played, after you've given whatever you've given, continue to serve. Let your service bleed out. And if I would, I'd like to leave you with a couple of questions. Is music the only thing you can do, or is music the only thing that you want to do? Is music the only thing you can do, or is music the only thing you want to do? It's a loaded question, but it might be if it's the only thing that we want to do, there might be other giftings and talents and abilities that God has given us that we might be able to get to once we step off of the organ, or once we step off of the podium, or once we get out of the music space. There may be other areas in the vineyard for which we can work and make a difference and pour into others' lives. Thank you.